All right, welcome everyone to the LGBTQ at Ross webinar. We're excited to have everyone join us to learn a little bit more about what LGBTQ life at Ross looks like. We've got a great panel of current students to speak to you about our current experiences, what life is like in Ann Arbor and at Ross. Also, we are excited to answer your questions. We'll have plenty of time at the end for a Q&A. So if you have questions, please don't be shy. You can submit them at any time throughout the webinar in your chat box, and we will address those at the end. Today we are a group of three men talking to you. Unfortunately, we're in a pretty busy time at Ross, heading into our finals in a week or two. It's a heavy recruiting period for MBA 1s. So just because of some scheduling challenges, we've got two gentlemen from the MBA 1 class. I myself am an MBA 2, but we will definitely share our contact information at the end. We'll also be sending out a copy of this recording. And if you are interested in connecting with someone else who has a different interest or different background, we can definitely connect you with other folks within the club and the community. Just a quick note on language. We will be referring to our LGBTQ club at Ross, which is called Out for Business. We often call it OFB. So if you hear anyone reference OFB, that's the club that we're talking about. We'll also use LGBTQ to refer to the broader queer community, recognizing that language is important and that might not capture some other identities, but just for simplicity, that's what we're going to use to refer to our community. So to get started, we'll just introduce ourselves. My name is Evan Nagel. Like I said, I am a second-year MBA. I'm originally from Cape Elizabeth, Maine. Did my undergrad at the University of Rochester, and spent 4 years working in internal consulting in the insurance industry for a life and disability insurance company called Unum, back in my hometown of Portland, Maine. I did my internship last year at Goldman Sachs in the investment banking division in New York City with the Industrials Group, where I will be returning after I graduate in May. On campus, I am one of the vice presidents of investment banking for our finance club. I'm the vice president of admissions for our Out for Business club, and I'm also a Ramba Fellow, which we will talk about in more detail a little bit later in the webinar.
Hi, I'm Mauro. I'm an MBA 1 here at Ross. I'm an international student. I'm originally from São Paulo, Brazil. I did my undergrad over there and I got my BBA at FGV. And I've worked the last 5 years as a senior consultant at BPI Consulting, a Brazilian company. Here at Ross, I'm a member of the Consulting Club, the General Management Club, the Brazilian Association, and Out for Business.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. My name is Sean Drimmel, and I'm a first-year MBA student. Originally from San Diego, California, and I did my undergrad at the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. Before Ross, I was in cloud go-to-market strategy and operations at Salesforce, and prior to that, I did a stint in management consulting at Capgemini Consulting. Now at Ross, I am the AVP of Corporate and Alumni Relations for the Tech Club, as well as the Director of Admissions for Out for Business. And then I'm also a member of the Marketing Club and Design Plus Business. And I'm also a participant in Leader X, which is one of several programs that the Sanger Leadership Center offers here at Ross. And like Evan, I'm also a Ramba Fellow, which we'll talk about in a few slides.
Great. And just so folks know, this is everyone who's on the call right now from our end. So it's just current students. We don't have anyone from admissions here right now. So please feel free to be candid with your questions as we can answer them from the student perspective. All right. So just speaking about my experience at Ross being a second-year student, I have found the campus, the community to be incredibly engaged and supportive. On that note of engagement, you just saw that we're all involved in multiple clubs on campus. I think people are drawn to a school like Michigan because they're looking for, often they're looking for a student body who's really committed to that MBA experience, right? You are self-selecting to go to school in Ann Arbor, which is a fantastic community, but it is largely a community based around the school. So I think folks come here with the intention of being really involved with campus. OFB is, I think, an important part of campus, and the broader community of allies and Ann Arbor, I have found to be incredibly supportive as well. So these are a couple of pictures from the current year and years past that demonstrate, I think, some of the community engagement. People really show up for OFB. We host a lot of social programming on campus for the club and for the broader community. And I think that the community does a really good job of supporting folks in the LGBTQ community. So just digging in a little bit more into the resources that Out for Business provides. Community building is definitely an important part. From my experience, it's been one of the most important parts. Coming to business school, I think, can sometimes be a little bit scary for LGBTQ folks, but I think finding your community makes it a lot more inviting and accessible. And I came from a place where the majority of my friends back home were part of the community. And so I was, one of the things in my mind when I came to business school was, will I be able to find my tribe? And Out for Business has definitely been an easy way for me to find those folks at Ross. We do provide career support, and we'll dig into that a little more later as well. But I would say this is in addition to the sort of career and recruiting support that you would receive from your industry-specific group, which is to say we have groups for consulting and tech and finance, and they'll do a lot of your preparation, but there is kind of an additional layer if you're a member of the community in the way of diversity recruiting, and Out for Business will provide resources to prepare you for that. Also, the group does a lot around awareness. We're going to talk about some of our programming for National Coming Out Week later, but just as a headline, a lot of educational opportunities for folks who are maybe not part of the community or not as educated on LGBTQ topics to learn a bit more. OFB is definitely a growing group. We've grown a bit this year, and it's a trend we've seen over the past couple of years, which I think is really exciting. And if you are interested in being a part of the group and leaving kind of a lasting legacy on the Ross community, I think now is a great time to join as we're going through this exciting growth phase and shaping what OFB will look like for future generations.
And just to touch a little bit more on what Evan alluded to earlier around careers and professional development, one of the main pillars around OFB at Ross is providing access and advanced access to our members of a vast variety of companies, whether it's in consulting or finance or tech, CPG. Being a member of Out for Business does provide us with unique and kind of exclusive opportunities to have access to these company presentations and other diversity recruiting events. One of the main diversity recruiting events that we participate in is called the Reaching Out MBA Conference, RAMBA. And Reaching Out MBA, if you are not familiar, is a national nonprofit organization that really educates, inspires, and connects the next generation of LGBTQ leaders. And among other programs and events throughout the year that they offer, their kind of annual marquee event is the RAMBA Conference, which is an incredible 1,800-person recruiting, education, and networking event that's hosted every year. This past year, it was held in October in Atlanta, and we had a pretty solid, maybe 15-member contingent Out for Business crew go this year. And just speaking from my own experience, I had the opportunity to interview with Microsoft. I had a coffee chat with Uber and was even invited to a private reception with Apple. This year's conference also coincided with Atlanta Pride, so it was a very, very fun weekend to attend. So that's a little bit about the professional development and career aspect of Out for Business.
Yeah, and just maybe one thing I would add there, Sean, you mentioned that it happens in October.
Yep.
That might sound really early, thinking about the fact that you come to campus, late August, early September. it is really early, and it's a much accelerated timeline as compared to regular recruiting channels, and that's a lot of where OFB I think will provide additional value in the career preparation sort of lane, because the more traditional recruiting paths are not kind of up to speed at that point. And so it's the second year MBA students in OFB who are devoting a lot of time, along with folks from the program office and CDO, to kind of get you up to speed earlier on in the process. So I just think that speaks to the kind of dedication from both the institution and from the student body, to help MBA ones have a really successful recruiting experience at Ramba.
One big event that Out for Business hosts here at Ross is the National Coming Out Week. It's a week in October with daily programming from OFB for the Ross community, and from Monday to Friday, we have different activities happening every day. The programming this year included a volunteer for a local LGBTQA organization, a screening of HIV epidemic documentary, How to Survive a Plague, with a Q&A with Peter Stelly, one of the main subjects of the film, and an active organizer. Our week culminated in OutX, a TED Talk style event with over 200 students and community members in attendance here at Rome.
So in addition to Coming Out Week, one event that kind of coincides with Coming Out Week is Out for Bus. And Out for Bus is Out for Business's take on the bus. The bus is the Ross MBA program's home tailgate before and really after every home game for the Michigan football team. And during Out for Bus, it is probably one of the most popular, infamous MBA tailgates that occurs every year. It is a retrofitted yellow school bus with a DJ on top. We have it decked out with rainbow flags, as you can see in the picture here. Even a solely sponsored banner. We pass out swag, we pass out t-shirts, and of course we have quite a vast supply of rainbow shots as well, that rainbow gel shots that people enjoy. In addition to this, we have, of course, a number of different social events throughout the year. Most recently, we had a Thanksgiving potluck organized by our social chair, which was then followed by a pretty unique bar crawl event where we were divided into teams and had to visit different bars around town to find one of our OFB members who was stationed at an undisclosed bar. And for every bar that a group attended and this person was not present, we got to see a number of different bars around town. Before that, we hosted our annual Glitter Bus event. And out of popular demand, this is for the first time being hosted twice in 1 year. For this event, we rent a 40-person party bus, and we make a little trek to Detroit and kind of visit the nightlife in the city over there. So that was definitely one of the highlights of my semester so far. In addition to that, we host what is called MB every year. MB is hosted at Necto, and if you've not yet been to Ann Arbor, Necto is a local nightclub in downtown Ann Arbor. Necto is also home to a number of other diversity-related events throughout the year. Our Indian Student Association hosts the annual Diwali event. Our Risky Business Group, which is the MBA student band, they host a performance multiple times throughout the year. This weekend is their winter performance. During GBR, Go Blue Rendezvous, which is the Ross Admitted Student Welcome Weekend in early April, they hold a performance there as well. And then in February, I believe the most highly attended and anticipated event throughout the entire year is MB Gay. I've not yet been myself. This February will be the first time, but my understanding is that different student groups will put on drag performances, both in drag queen form and drag king form. And our audience members will throw money on the stage to quote unquote vote for their favorite performance. And the team that gets the most tips win. And essentially all tips that are donated or that are contributed go to a local LGBTQ charity. And last year, over $10,000 was raised for a local nonprofit. And this Saturday, we are actually filming the promo video for the February event, and it will be my first time, at least, in heels and a wig, so should be fun.
And just to explain the still that you're seeing on screen now, this is a still from last year's promotional video for MBGay. If you are interested in seeing it in its full glory, I believe you can find it on YouTube, but it's quite a lot of fun. So as I've mentioned, I think a couple of times, there is a lot of support at U of M, both institutionally and just from the community generally. Speaking more about some of the more formal resources, we have the Spectrum Center on campus, which is an LGBTQ resource center. We have a number of graduate student clubs. So Out for Business is the LGBTQ club for the business school, obviously. Outlaws is the same for the law school. And then you can see a couple of other groups there from the other graduate programs. We do have a handful of opportunities to connect with these other groups. We'll do mixers and socials kind of around Ann Arbor, and it's always nice to meet other folks in the community who are in different graduate programs. There are Ann Arbor and Detroit, I think, are actually pretty LGBT friendly communities. So there are a lot of resources in the Ann Arbor and greater Detroit area. A couple of them are listed here. The Jim Toy Center is one of the nonprofits that we supported last year with the proceeds from MBGay. They are again, just another LGBT resource in the community. So yeah, from my experience, having been here for almost 2 years, I have found it to be incredibly accepting, tons of resources, very visible too, which you might not expect being, a relatively suburban town in the Midwest. But I have been very pleasantly surprised and just kind of overwhelmingly welcomed in the community.
So we mentioned Out for Business has the support of course, our fellow members, of our entire student body population and broader Ann Arbor community. But what's fantastic is that we also have the support and resources from Ross faculty and staff. And while they're not in the room or on the call with us today, two dedicated individuals that Out for Business has and that we work with are Diana Economy, who is a director of admissions, and Taryn, who is the director of diversity and inclusion. And for those who have not met Diana, I will say you will never forget your first encounter with her. When I attended a San Francisco welcome event after my round 1 acceptance earlier this year, I was one of the first admitted students to arrive at the restaurant. And I will never forget, she just immediately greeted me with a huge hug and a warm, "We are so happy to have you here, Sean." And I was already 100% committed at that point, but I think that very much pushed me to 110% commitment after that. And we were speaking, with Diana before this event, and we just wanted to really encourage everyone that it is completely okay and welcomed to be out and to be open and to be 100% genuinely you on your application.
Talking a little bit more about the ROMBA conference, the Regional MBA conference. It's a big MBA LGBTQ conference with more than 1,700 people attending this conference. This year it was in Atlanta, and last year it will take place in LA. And besides MBA 1 and MBA 2, pre-MBA students can also attend, and there's a school fair on Saturday that we can go there and talk with all the schools, all the big schools that will be there. It was my first time at ROMBA, and it was an amazing experience. It was my first contact with many companies here in the United States, and besides that, I could have an amazing time with the people from Ross. It was a good opportunity for bonding with other OFB members and we had all the support before the conference. We had some meetings here to help us do our resume, to receive some tips about interviews over there and how to leverage our time over there. And it helped a lot because I arrived there. There were 100 companies over there, and you feel overwhelmed with so many companies over there. So it's good to arrive there with a strategy. And the OFB here gave us all the support to arrive and do our best over there.
So in addition to the Ramba conference, there is also the Ramba Fellowship Program. And the fellowship is a joint effort between top business schools and the organization Reaching Out MBA to really develop the LGBTQ and ally business leaders of tomorrow. If this is something that you are interested in, there is a form on the Ramba website, reachingoutmba.org, where you can express your interest, and it is a pretty quick questionnaire that you can fill out. That information will then be passed on to respective schools, and it is up to the participating business programs to identify and select their respective fellowship recipients. And it's a number of factors that kind of go into that, one of which includes your involvement in maybe affinity groups at work, or perhaps LGBTQ involvement in your undergrad life as well. So the Ramba Fellowship provides not just a financial award every year, but there are year-round opportunities for professional development and networking with LGBTQ leaders across the nation. This summer, through the fellowship program, I was able to attend a retreat in New York and met 50 plus other fellows from different programs. And having that connection going into the actual Ramba conference in October, I think really was a unique opportunity and kind of set apart from just participating as normal.
Yeah, I would just encourage anyone who's on this call and plans to apply to business school and is comfortable being out to express interest in the Ramba Fellowship. I don't think there's any drawback from doing that. It's been an important part of my experience in business school, and I think the connectivity with leaders across other top business schools has enriched my experience and helped me be a more effective leader on campus at Ross. So would definitely encourage folks, if they're interested, to follow the link that we have on the screen right now and express interest.
Talking about the Michigan network, Michigan has one of the biggest network in the world with more than 500,000 alumni worldwide. Last year, when I was applying for MBA here, I started to feel how supportive this community was. Everybody that I reached out was answering very fast. I talked with many people here in the United States, back in Brazil, and it was impressive how supportive they were. And this year, while I'm here, I'm doing off-campus recruiting, and they still very supportive in scheduling coffee chats, replying emails. If you send an email to a Michigan alumni, they will answer in the maximum 2 days. It's very impressive how fast they are and how they are willing to help us. And back in my country, as an international student, I can say that I feel the same over there. We have a big Brazilian alumni community over there with diverse industries, backgrounds. We have a group that they are always sending some jobs opportunities. If you are a consultant and you are analyzing a new industry, you go there, you say, does anybody here work in this industry? And 100% sure that they will have someone over there, or if they don't, they will connect you with someone.
Great. So that is the content that we have for you guys prepared. I think we've received a couple of questions so far, but if you have any additional questions that we have not addressed, please feel free to enter them in the text box now. We will answer the questions that we received so far, and if we don't receive any more, we have a couple kind of frequently asked questions that we could jump to, but would definitely like to answer the questions that you guys have. So Sean, do we have a question?
Yeah, we have one that asks about what it's like to be LGBTQ plus in Ann Arbor outside of OFB? So personally speaking, coming from San Francisco, I also had as Evan mentioned, a lot of my network and community and friends back in the Bay Area were a part of were a part of the community. So I did initially have my qualms about moving to a smaller Midwest town. Um, there's not necessarily a Castro or a Hillcrest, San Diego, or Hell's Kitchen, New York, or Boys Town, Chicago of Ann Arbor. Um, but that's not to say there isn't still a kind of a vibrant LGBTQ scene in Ann Arbor. There is one dedicated LGBTQ bar called Out Bar, AUT. And then every Friday, we mentioned the club Necto. Every Friday at Necto is Pride Night. It is just no 18 and over, but they do secure, if it is of interest, they do secure a lot of really outstanding drag talent as well as DJs that come through the city. I don't know if Evan or Maro, any additions or personal experiences that you might have.
I would just emphasize the caliber of the drag talent coming through. If you are interested in that, or if you follow Drag Race or anything like that, it's really incredible. It's not something I expected. I live pretty close to Necto, so it makes it really accessible, and have had a lot of fun nights there with OFB and the greater community.
One other question. Do couples end up getting their partners on campus? And how does LGBTQ Club help partners?
Yeah, that's a great question. Do either of you, I don't think any of us have a partner on campus, do you?
I don't have a partner here on campus, but I'm close to the Partners Club because my friends from Brazil are at the Partner Club. One of the co-presidents of the Partner Club is an LGBT guy. And so he works to try to integrate all the LGBT partners within the club as well. And they are very, very supportive with all the partners in general here at Ross, at the Partners Club. And the LGBT partners are very welcome to the club, and you can be member of the board. You can engage in many initiatives over there. It's very supportive.
Yeah, one of our VPs, the VP of events, is a partner. So they're definitely welcomed, and I think it's kind of a seamless integration into the club if they want to be a part of that. Another question we had was about subgroups within Out for Business for women or female identifying individuals or non-binary folks. We don't have a formal subgroup. I do know that sometimes the women will organize events for themselves. Again, recognizing that we don't have any women on the call right now, but we are fairly evenly split between genders. So there is definitely a strong female presence, and they do organize some of their own activities, but again, not kind of a formal structure for that. Great. Good questions. Please keep them coming. Another one that we have is a question about making business more LGBTQ friendly and how Ross can help reach out to companies to further that effort. One of the positions that we have within OFB is a vice president of corporate relations. I was the director of corporate relations last year, and just to explain the VP director divide, the VP is a second year MBA student, and then the director would be an MBA 1 who is supporting those efforts. So I was one of the 2 liaisons who connected with companies last year from Out for Business. And I think if that is something you are particularly interested in, that's a great position for you because you are the face of Out for Business to those companies. I don't think there's much that we do currently in terms of influencing activities and policy at the company or education. It's more about bringing them to campus and providing recruiting opportunities for club members. But, like I said, we are a growing group, and that means that positions are changing and opportunity is changing. And if that's something you're interested in, we're always looking to deepen our connection with the employee resource groups at some of the larger recruiters on campus. So I think that would probably be the best outlet. All right, so we have a couple of other questions that we had prepared that we receive often. Again, please feel free to continue submitting your questions, but we can jump to a couple of these in the meantime. I think we've tackled these first two around what LGBTQ life in Ann Arbor and at Ross is like. Mauro, I think you touched a bit on being international, but is there anything additional you'd want to add from that perspective?
Yeah, as an international student and coming from Brazil and not very open country over there, when I first came here to Ann Arbor at GBR, there's a pre-MBA reception that we have in April when you get to know all your classmates over there. Since GBR, I met amazing people here. At GBR, I met other three people that became my roommates. So we share an apartment together. We live in four guys over there. It's called the Bright Bed. We have an amazing environment over there. And here, Ross community in general is a very supportive and a friendly community. Almost everybody is from outside Michigan, so we are kind of the same situation. Everybody's willing to make new friends, to help you. I had my birthday here the second week of classes, and I had 25 people having dinner with me, and I was here for 2 weeks. It was amazing. And besides that, besides the community, we also have, as international students, a huge support from academic and career offices. That is not common in other countries as well, but here at Ross, we have this support very often from them, helping to contact companies to tailor our academic experience. I'm having an amazing experience here, and I couldn't be happier about that.
Great. So another question from the audience around how OFB engages allies and if there is a vice president of allies within the OFB group. Great question. It is a question that we have been tackling within the group since I came to campus last year. One of our strategic priorities for this year is to kind of formalize how we think about and engage allyship and what we want that to look like. Within that conversation, we've talked about adding a role for a VP of allyship. We don't have it right now, largely because we don't have a terribly clear vision of what that role would entail, but I do, just given the direction of the conversations, I do envision having that role either this year or next year or in the very near future. Like I mentioned, we have been in a growth phase, and so with that kind of reimagination of OFB, we've taken on these types of conversations. There's a diversity, equity, and inclusion council at Ross that is, very strongly focused on allyship, and so I think it's a very topical conversation, one that has been developing for a while, and I think that will kind of culminate in us adding a role for allyship to kind of formalize how we reach out to and engage with the broader community. But up until this point, it's been more of a holistic effort, just kind of incumbent on the officers and the members of the group. Anything you guys would add around allyship? No? Yeah. Great. So again, please continue to submit your questions, but another question that we often get about Ross more generally, not about OFB specifically, but is, recognizing that we are in Michigan in kind of the middle of the country, can Ross help me get a job on one of the coasts?
Yeah, and I would say wholeheartedly the answer to that is yes. Myself, coming from the San Francisco Bay Area, I'm aiming to both intern in San Francisco next summer as well as return permanently for full-time employment to the Bay Area after graduation. And there are opportunities abound to recruit and to network with companies on both coasts, New York, San Francisco. And in fact, the latest Ross employment report shows that more than 67% of our graduates accepted offers on the East Coast, West Coast, or Chicago. So there really are plenty of opportunities to recruit on the coast. And if international opportunities are of interest, there are about approximately 10% of our students who find themselves abroad after graduation.
Great. So another question from the audience. Beyond finance, consulting, and tech, are there perhaps any other industries that have targeted LGBTQ recruiting? The answer is yes. I think most industries have targeted LGBTQ recruiting. Consulting for sure has a number of recruiting opportunities for folks in the community.
I'm not necessarily recruiting for CPG, but I did attend the marketing symposium 2 weeks ago, and they also do have dedicated diversity recruiting efforts. We have another member who is recruiting for healthcare and medical devices, and there are also opportunities within that space for LGBT recruiting as well.
Yeah, if you go to the Romba website, you see all the companies that attended Romba this year, and it has over 100 companies over there from industry ranging from CPG and healthcare, as mentioned, to transportation, hospitality, real estate. All the industries are targeting LGBTQ plus recruiting right now.
Great. So I think we'll just give folks a couple of seconds if there are any final questions coming in from the audience. If not, we can wrap up in just a minute. All right. It looks like that is all the questions. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. Hopefully this has been helpful to give you a little glimpse into what life is like at Ross as an LGBTQ student. As I mentioned earlier, admissions will be sending out a recording of this webinar. Our contact information for the three of us is on the screen right now. Please feel free to reach out to any of us, and if there are other folks who you'd like to connect with within OFB, recognizing that we don't represent everyone within the club, we are more than happy to connect you with those folks. So thank you everyone for joining, and good luck.
Go Blue.
Blue.